Often they're using the power of suggestion, manipulation, peer pressure. By the way, when I went in the back room, this is case study number 2. Almost everyone, quote, who goes in the back room does experience something. I'm not sure how much of God. But I can tell you what they do, and it's mind control manipulation. They tell you this, and you've got a whole room full of people, and guess what? If you're one of the persons that doesn't do what they say, guess who feels like they're out of step with God? You. And so what it is, it's a huge peer pressure manipulation type thing, and they can get you to do certain things different places. Now, this is kind of the wacko element of the body of Christ. Most churches aren't like this at all. But I cannot tell you, I mean, after 25 years of being a pastor, I can't tell you how many Christians and even pastors and people that are running around that feel like second-class citizens that went in a back room somewhere that heard someone guarantee they could have this gift or that gift, and if you don't get it, guess who has the problem? No one ever says, hey, pastor, I think you had an off day. You're only 94% on giving this gift away. I mean, it's always the person. You don't have enough faith. There must be sin in your life. And this whole manipulative, but you know what? You've got to know the truth. And the truth is people don't bestow gifts. God does. Third warning, beware when any particular gift is made universal evidence of spirituality, salvation, or other spiritual blessing. Skip down to verses 29 and 30, chapter 12. By the way, as I read this too, in English we can't quite do it, but he's going to ask questions. But grammatically, you can ask a question and you can use just one little word that automatically tells you that it's a rhetorical question and the answer is no. And that's this case. So these are not just questions, are all apostles? It's, are all apostles? Emphatically, no. Okay, so notice what it says. Verse 29, are all apostles? No. Are all prophets? No. Are all teachers? No. Do all work miracles? No. Do all have gifts of healing? No. Do all speak in tongues? No. Do all interpret? And he's making the point in 1 Corinthians 12, 29 and 30, that no one has all the gifts. And so anytime anyone says there's some universal gift that's a sign that really makes you a salvation or a spiritual blessing, always have that red light go off and say, well, wait a second. That's, by the way, what the guy was telling us in the back room, is that if we wanted certain things and if we wanted to know for sure whether we were a Christian, you would have this experience. Spiritual gift abuse. God gives the gifts, and God can give the gift of speaking in another language that you haven't learned, but the purpose is not for some guy to get in front of a group and manipulate people in the back room. Spiritual abuse number 4. Beware when the focus of a church service, ministry, or religious event is on spiritual gifts and their manifestation rather than on the giver of the gifts and his agenda for the church. This is where you hear about the miracle service as advertised. When the focus gets on, see the show. Here's what you can get. Beware. Miracle service, this is what's going to happen, and at this service so-and-so is going to happen, and this is where, they're lying in the parking lot, and I've been in places where they charge $10 or $15 for parking. And by the way, this is not someone throwing stones out there at somewhere. I've been to all this stuff, okay? These are the kind of places where, 20/20 and 48 hours are doing research and finding out that the people were walking in, but you must be very tired. We'll give you a wheelchair while you wait. And it's amazing. They didn't come in a wheelchair. They got a wheelchair when they get there, and then they get up out of the wheelchair, and wow, look what happened. These are the kind of places where the guy has the little earpiece, and they interview and screen the people. And people that have clearly, non-psychosomatic illnesses, over there, you get over here, people that, lower back pain, and, I think I'm eating down deep. I think my gallbladder stones, of course, they don't have an MRI and they don't know. But I'll tell you what, you can get people in a frenzy to believe just about anything. When the focus is on the show, when the focus is on the miracles, when the focus is on the person, when the focus is on what you can get, you know what? Just read the Gospels and ask yourself, is this how Jesus did ministry? In fact, look at Ephesians chapter 4, verses 11 and 12. It's very, very clear. Just flip back a couple books, right? He gave gifts. Why did he give spiritual gifts? Did he give spiritual gifts so people could, make a lot of money, put on a show, tell people how awesome, miraculous, and wonderful their deal is? He gave some as apostles. He gave some as prophets. He gave some as evangelists. He gave some as pastors and teachers. Why? For the work of service, to build up the body for the work of service. Spiritually gifted people are to equip us, regular believers and saints, so that we can do the work of service until every single Christian grows up into maturity to all the measure of the fullness of Christ. The goal and the role of gifting men and women is to help other believers mature in Christ. And so anytime the focus is off the giver of the gifts and onto the show, anytime it's about showmanship instead of Christ-likeness, you better have that flashing red light and say, you know something? It may be electric in the air and people may make all kind of claims, but it doesn't pass the test of New Testament biblical Christianity. Warning number 5, beware of comparing your gifts with anyone else. It always leads to carnality. Do not compare your gifts. And even as I say that, I'd like to say that I never do. See, I'm there. But you will, because you're human, right? See, remember case study number 4? The young gal, she looked at other people's gifts, thought the visible ones were rewards, and a lot of the reason she had abused her gift by neglect is that she made her whole orientation about gifts comparing herself with what other people did have and she doesn't have. I'm going to read a passage that's a little extended, but it's so important, I think it's worth reading. And have you noticed that we're still in 1 Corinthians 12? Will you go back a couple books? Some of you may be thinking, you know, I think this Corinthian church sort of had some struggles with gifts. Because all the directives about how to do it right are in 1 Corinthians 12, you know, part of 13 and 14. He goes on to say, 1 Corinthians 12, beginning at verse 11, all these are the work of one and the same Spirit, and He gives them, the Spirit, gifts to each one. How? Just as He determines. The body is a unit. He's going to make a metaphor. Though it is made up of many parts, and though all its parts are many, they form one body. Given the human body, we have a hand, we have a head, we have eyes, we have ears, we have feet. And so it is with Christ. For we were all baptized by one Spirit into one body, whether Jew or Greek, slave or free, and we were all given one Spirit to drink. Now the body's made up of not one part, but many. And then here's where he goes through the analogy. If the foot should say, because I'm not a hand, I don't belong to the body, would it not for that reason cease to be any part of the body? I mean, less? No. And if the ear should say, because I'm not an eye, I don't belong to the body, it would not for that reason cease to be a part of the body. Kind of would it? Well, no. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? And if the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But in fact, God has arranged the parts in the body, every one of them, just as He wanted them to be. Don't compare your gift to someone else's. Don't get thinking, and by the way, it's human nature, certain churches and certain backgrounds will gravitate to honor certain gifts more than other gifts. I was in one parachurch organization that I'll tell you what, if you had the gift of exhortation, man, you were a winner. If you had the gift of service, it was kind of like, well, you know, someone does need to pick up the chairs, and that would be nice. If you had the gift of teaching or leadership, actually, it was threatening to the group because they had a real cookie-cutter formula about how they were going to raise up leaders. What they wanted was facilitators to lead these small groups. And anyone that kind of wanted, hey, why are we doing it this way? Hey, rebellious Ingram, would you just shut up and sit over there and lead your group? Well, I had some pretty strong leadership gifts, and I was saying, hey, you know, basically, this seems kind of dumb. If you want to get this job done, we ought to go this way. And, and I was dealing with the pride issues in my life. And I just want to say, for your encouragement, I think you'll struggle with this your whole life because I do believe that all of us are desperately insecure, even as believers. I mean, I know we're going to grow, but we're desperately insecure. I've been a Christian now about 30 years. I've been a serious student of the Bible for about 28 years. And you would think if you could get this out of your system, you could kind of get it out of your system by now. But just a few months ago, I was in Chicago, and Moody Bible Institute, one of my sons went there. They have this big conference they've had since the days of D.L. Moody. And you go into this historic church, and it's all wooden, and it's round, and there's thousands of people. And then there's cameras because they're putting it on the radio all over America. And then they read the internet where all the students and people around the world are listening. And I got to be one of the speakers. And you're thinking, you know, 30 years old, you know about spiritual gifts, you ought to be secure enough to go there. Realize that you don't have to compare yourself with Jim Cymbala and Howard Hendricks and Tony Evans and Johnny Erickson Tata and all these 15 other speakers they have, and that, you know, you're basically going to go there and do your job, and you understand you're just part of the body, and he brings that, and you bring that, and wrong. And you know, first night Joe Stoll speaks, and man, that was good. And then the next night Tony Evans, and then Howard Hendricks, and coming up next, and you know, and I mean, it was like, and I'm sitting there going, this is ridiculous, Ingram. Why are you so unbelievably intimidated? Why are you having these thoughts in your mind? And I mean, I just had to go off in the corner and say, oh, God, what these people think. Everything in my flesh wants to compare myself. And every time I do, you know, on my really kind of normal days, I feel like a weenie, and there's these great speakers. And then on my not so normal days, and I get full of myself, I'm thinking, well, you know, I think I could hit the ball like that speaker. Maybe, you know, if I could go after him, it would be okay. And, you know, then finally you just get to the point, you go, oh, God, woe is me. After 30 years of walking with you, I've got all these gunky issues in my life. Will you forgive me? And if you don't speak, I don't have anything to bring. And what I understand is you've gifted each of these people, and you have a plan in this week, and you want to help the thousands of people in this room and the tens of thousands listening, and I want to be a part of what you're doing. And I mean, I had to get before God and literally just cleanse my heart and just beg him to help me see, I'm desperate for you. Will you help me? And all I want to say is I don't think anyone gets to the point where you mature your way through that. I think that will be something we'll live with the rest of our days. But don't compare yourself with other people. Don't compare your gift with other people. God made you unique. This is one of those times that after teaching to this point, I really wish you and I could sit down across a coffee table or maybe at a restaurant or coffee shop, and we could do a little Q&A with one another. Because when I've taught this before and I go through these first 5 abuses, all I see is this happening. People are nodding their heads and they're saying, boy, that's happened to me, or that happened to me in this church, or wow, my brother-in-law, he's involved in a group like that, and they say that everyone has to have that gift, or maybe at a more personal level, you realize, you know something, I do compare my gifts with others. And I don't realize that, you know something, God made me unique. I'm not supposed to be like them. I shouldn't compare myself. Well, in our next broadcast, I'm going to talk about 5 more things that you really need to be aware of. And I really suggest that go to the website. All the things that I've shared are in printed form. You can download them for free. We want to help you. Go to Your Divine Design, download those notes, look them over, and then if you want to hear or see this on video again, we have ways for you to get a hold of that material. God bless you. Beware. In our next broadcast, we're going to wrap all this up. Don't miss it. The last 5 abuses that you need to be protected from.